Hi, I'm Jay Polaki, and this is the HR Bytes podcast, where HR practitioners share their think globally and act locally digital HR agenda. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HR Bytes podcast and wadcast. We are present on all your favorite podcast channels and YouTube. Today's guest is Angela Cheng-Cimini, who is the Senior Vice President of Talent and CHRO at Harvard Business Publishing. Hi, Angela. Welcome to the show today.
Jay, thanks so much for having me.
Wonderful. Angela, you've been in HR longer than any of these newfangled shiny objects like ChatGPT and other tools have been in existence. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what's keeping you excited these days in the HR function.
It's a really good question. So I've been doing this 30 years. I like to say 20 plus, just to keep from dating myself. But HR has certainly gone through quite the evolution, and it has accelerated, it seems, with every year. I think the things that have changed the most is our function's willingness and indeed mandate to embrace technology. But what has stayed the same is our need to be compassionate and to serve as the steward of culture and the organization's conscience. So there are some threads that have been running along for the last 30 years, and then certainly all the spikes around technology in particular that have just been a wild ride.
Yeah, wild, wild west it is when it comes to technology. So, how do you advise your team and others in your network to approach automation and AI for the HR function? We can't be prepared for something we do not know anything about, and things like all of this open AI and generative AI stuff from OpenAI hit us at a moment in time when we were not ready for it. So how are you advocating for preparing our function for this increased use of automation and AI in our roles?
Different ways to think about how we embrace the technology, and I think of them sort of in three layers. One is organizationally and strategically. As the HR function, we should be helping to lead from the front because it goes right at the heart of how we upskill our employees. Secondly, is sort of what are the team efficiencies that can be realized that we can outsource to AI? So, are we scheduling interviews with that? Are we no longer doing reports manually? Are we ingesting large amounts of data more quickly because AI can do that for us? And then, third, individually, which is just what are you doing with AI that can help you be more efficient, help you be more effective, and also just learn to play with it, right? So, in your own personal comfort level, don't use it just at work. I used it the other day. I was going on a 10-day trip that was going to take me to Europe, Dublin in particular, and then to Vegas, which are not the same kinds of climates to pack for. So I asked AI, help me to get into a single carry-on where I can pack for, sort of 60-degree weather and also 80-degree weather. So there are just a lot of modalities that we can apply AI for, but I think principally it's just not to be afraid of it.
Wonderful. So, we've talked about this a lot and we read about this a lot in all of our HR related magazines and blogs, and this fear of being replaced by a robot, right? How do we keep this human touch alive in the midst of all of this technological revolution that's happening in our world of work?
So I heard someone smarter than me say that AI will not take your job, but you will be replaced by someone who knows AI better than you. So I think if we keep that at the top of our minds, that's a pretty urgent message, right? I think HR in particular is not under threat. I think there are a lot of ways it can optimize the work that we do. I mean, how often do we feel like there just aren't enough hours in the day? And if we go through and catalog all the sort of lower value add activities that we can have AI do for us, we suddenly can recover 2 or 3 hours each day. Even just sorting through your inbox, prioritizing what needs to be answered, it can draft a response for you. It will automatically trash the junk mail that you don't even need to know ever existed. It will schedule things on your calendar. It knows that if an email is coming from your CEO, that should go to the top of your inbox. If it's coming from a solicitor, it goes right to your junk mail. So think about all the time that you just used to manage your email. So again, a lot of it actually is about how do we embrace it to make ourselves better? Why wouldn't we use a tool? So it's why we drive instead of walk because it's faster.
Absolutely. It's certainly better than a ringtone that a colleague of mine used to use when our CFO would call to alert her that it was a call she can't miss, right? It was
That's
this
right.
loud barking dog. It would
Oh
go
no!
off in the middle of meetings.
Oh my goodness!
Certainly AI might be a better option in that case. So,
Yeah.
a lot of CEOs have chimed in on this whole AI revolution that's happening in our lives and in our work lives, right? And particularly one person who is at the forefront of all this, the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, predicted that AI will be smarter than humans in 5 years before 2030. What do you foresee for HR today in 2024 and beyond? And what do you think we should be aiming for as our next big, hairy, audacious goal in HR?
Um, if I could see out 5 years, I'd be a very, very rich woman. I don't think we could have predicted the pandemic and how quickly accelerated suddenly we could work from anywhere. And I don't think anybody could have anticipated the impact of consumer grade AI. So, I think I'm gonna take sort of a cheating way out, Jay, and say I have no idea what's coming in 5 years, except that I'm that much closer to retirement. And it will be someone else's challenge to solve. What I can say is that it requires us to remain nimble, to be open minded, and to make sure that we are creating cultures and environments where people can learn, can make mistakes, and can experiment. One of the challenges that we have is creating time for people to play with AI. So we are proposing in a couple months that we're actually going to try and shut down the business and dedicate 2 half days where people are going to go through some self-paced study and then go into breakout groups and talk about what they learned and do some hands-on practice. So everybody is working on that at the same time, and it signals how important that sort of learning and development time is. And it's going to be focused on AI. But I imagine that that's sort of a practice that we could implement for anything. Maybe we all need to learn, I don't know, this particular leadership skill. Let's say we need to practice giving difficult feedback. Let's take half a day across the entire company. Let's give people some case studies. Let's practice with each other. So creating space, creating time, I'm finding is one of the great ways to build community, to maintain humanity in whatever it is we're learning, and in particular, find time to practice all this new tech.
Wonderful. That's a great sandbox kind of environment for teams, especially today when we're all so disconnected and disjointed. What are you most worried about this year for the HR function in general? And if you had a magic wand, which I wish I do sometimes, what would be your ideal solution to eliminate this challenge?
I think it's still burnout. To the extent that our employees experience fatigue, I see that my team experiences 2x that, 3x that, right? We carry a lot of the emotional burden of all the emotions that our employees are experiencing. And I take tremendous time, I take tremendous pride in my team in that a lot of employees and managers do see us as a partner. They do see us as a resource. But that means that we spend a lot of time sort of playing, therapist, playing teacher, playing counselor, playing disciplinarian. And all of those things are emotional work. And so making sure that my team is equipped to deal with that I'm not giving them too much work, that they have opportunities to take time away from the business. So burnout broadly for everybody, but specifically for the HR function, it remains a top concern.
Absolutely. And in addition to all of those challenges, we have the shiny object syndrome too in HR right now, where we're all looking to adopt or learn this new tech that's being thrown at us at lightning speed. So, what's one piece of advice you have for HR professionals who are looking to adopt or learn new technology?
I think you just have to get in there and play. You just have to try it. I was talking to someone earlier today that he still sees too many people in our function paralyzed. right? They don't quite know what to make of it, and that's fair. But I think the flip side to that is very little harm can be done. It's not like we've got the secret codes to launch a nuclear war, right? Like nothing is going to happen if we put something in the chat GBT and we don't get it right. Like if we're not prompt engineers, right? We're all not coding. That's not what our organizations are expecting of us. So just play and just explore can actually be quite fun. I will caveat it with one thing, Jay, which is, did you know that 20 questions posed to ChatGPT can consume the equivalent of a single 17-ounce bottle of water?
Yes.
So it has a huge environmental footprint. So balancing how much do I play versus just doing a simple browser search, because it has environmental impacts, is a little bit of a tightrope that I think we also should start to be mindful.
Absolutely. It's amazing how they realize that that's how much water it consumes, right? I saw that and I was shocked.
Yeah.
Um, what do you wish your HR team, or HR teams in general, knew to be better prepared for what's coming in 2024, 2025, and beyond?
I think that question is easier to answer now because you can look backwards and think about what you could have done differently. I give my team a lot of kudos. They are quick on their feet. They are quick to respond, while keeping their eyes on the prize, which is we want to build a great culture. So I think for all teams, it's learning to appreciate that you can't do everything. What are the three things that are really important to the organization? So staying true to those and then learning to say, yeah, I can't do that. Or I'm just going to have to take a little bit more time. Or you know what? I'm going to let that go so I can do this. So just agility and resilience continue to be, I think, the hallmarks of really effective HR teams.
Wonderful. Well, that brings us to the section which I call the question connection, where our audience gets to connect with you a little deeper than just a LinkedIn networking connection. So, who is one person you've gained in your network in the HR technology space in the last year that you think more people should know and connect with?
How do I name a single person without alienating all the hundreds and thousands of fantastic people that I know? Um,
You can do top three if you'd like.
well, recently I was at a talent summit. That's what the conference was called in Dublin. That's the one I was backing for. And I spent time with three wonderful heads of HR. So Diane Yoon from OpenAI, Tiffany Stevenson from Weight Watchers, and oh my goodness, AJ Thomas, who is most recently with the Moonshot Factory. And they are powerful, outspoken women who are visionaries in their own right. So any one of those three, I was happy to and privileged to spend time.
Wonderful. What's your favorite HR podcast or an HR related book?
Wow. Um, so I'm going to say the HR Bytes podcast is one of my favorites.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Um, favorite book. It's not so much an HR book. So recently, our executive team did a book swap, and the book that I suggested was a book by Arthur Brooks, and it's called Strength to Strength, and it's about how you jump to the next S curve as we age. So we were really, really good at something, but as we age, we're not going to be quite as sharp as we once were. So you need to find sort of a new meaning to your life, which is probably then become a teacher. And at this stage in my career, I've been doing a lot of volunteer work, which is paying it forward by paying it back. And that book is a wonderfully easy read, that gives hope for those of us who have fewer years ahead than behind. Strength to Strength from Arthur Brooks. Really, really good read.
If we were to create an HR playlist for working from anywhere, what song would you add to the list?
Oh, for me, it's got to be September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It never fails to get me to dance. So if I just need to get up from my desk and give myself a jolt of energy, that one does it every single time.
Wonderful. Would you recommend a LinkedIn Learning or e learning webinar or series for HR technology or HR?
I don't have an e-learning in particular, but Amanda Halley on LinkedIn has a wonderful series of newsletters where she interviews other HR leaders around their adoption of AI. And it's sort of a day, it gives you sort of a glimpse into a day in their life and how they're using technology. So it's a great series, Amanda Halley.
How do you enjoy giving back to the HR community? You know, you do a lot of things in the community, but particularly for the HR community, is there something that you do that, is your way of giving back?
I've been spending more of my free time mentoring and also advocating for the Asian American Pacific Islander community. So, not just strictly in the HR space, but I also belong to a bunch of HR networks and I love to hear from others to see what they're doing. I have been giving talks, so I really enjoy connecting with audiences and I find that really gratifying.
Wonderful. Happy API month to you.
Thank you.
I believe that is what it is called now.
Oh, I haven't heard it verbalized that way. I'll have to start using that. Thank you,
Yeah,
Jay.
that's what they say, API. So, I'm an Asian American too, and that's what we call ourselves now.
Okay, good to know.
So, Angela, if our audience would like to connect with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you and connect?
I am the only Angela Cheng-Cimini on LinkedIn, and if you reach out, let me know that you heard me on HR Bytes with Jay, and I'd be happy to accept.
Wonderful. Thank you again for being here today and for sharing your wonderful and insightful bites with the HR audience of the HR Bites community. I hope to see you on social more. And of course, our audience would love to connect with you as we air this episode of HR Bites. So thank you again for being here today, Angela.
Thank you for having me, Jay.
Listen on your favorite podcast channels and watch us on YouTube. Follow us on social. We are on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Join our budding community on LinkedIn and Facebook. Ask, answer, advise.